didn't know what I was going to do after graduation anyway, so it seemed like the perfect fit to fill a gap.
Yes, yes. uh, yeah, it's always fascinating to hear how people heard about it, because some people did it spur of the moment when they happened to see a show. Some of us, like in my family, we hosted people for years and years. We always had, somehow we ended up with mattresses spread out all over our living room with hosting and getting the opportunity to meet people from around the world. Well, welcome. Thank you, Avi.
Thank you.
I also wanted to welcome Ali Belicho. And let's see, Ali. Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Great. Now, Ali, is it true you were one of the first Africans to travel in Up With People?
Well, the first Ethiopian I know,
Aha.
but I don't dare to say Africans.
Well, one of the first. One of the
Yeah,
first.
one of the first,
Yeah.
yes. It was a long time ago, 87.
And I recently learned the phrase Swethiopian.
Yes, that's what people call me. I'm a Ethiopian.
What does that mean?
I am equally Swedish and Ethiopian in my
Oh,
heart and soul.
and where are you in Sweden right now?
I'm in Stockholm. I've been here since 1990.
Okay, welcome.
Thank
Uh,
you so much.
I was very lucky to travel to Stockholm several times. I happened to tour. I happened to spend 3.5 years on the road. So
Beautiful city.
yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, the only Swedish that I remember would be very offensive. So I am not going to
Oh,
attempt to read any Swedish
all
because
right.
I have, during my time Up With People, while I definitely learned other languages, it's one of the first things that unfortunately you would learn when you got to any new country. The phrases that you would not necessarily use in front of your children today.
All right.
So welcome. And I
Thank
also
you so
wanted to
much.
welcome Loli Montreal. Hi, Loli, how are you?
Ciao, buonasera. I'm
Ciao.
doing fine.
Yeah, buonasera.
Sì.
Mi chiamo TJ, vengo Stati Uniti, non parlo italiano, solo un poco.
Okay, that's fine.
And Loli, when did you travel?
I traveled in the 93, 94.
93, 94, and you were in Cast B,
Cat
yes?
B, exactly.
Yeah, I was also a Cast B person. So it's something that goes across the years. Don't worry, I know that we have a Cast A here and we have a Cast E here, but I have your back as a fellow Cast B person. So Loli, where are you right now?
I'm living in San Michele all'Adice, nel Trentino del nord dell'Italia.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
I have realized that my very Cuban Spanish that I speak from growing up in Miami is very effective in Northern Italy. Surprisingly, I understand almost everyone in Northern Italy. So we're very excited to have you, Loli. And Loli, where are you from originally?
I'm from Mexico.
What part?
Sonora, that is the same thing. It's the north part of Mexico, close to Arizona.
Yeah.
Very close to Tucson, Arizona.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. I'm so excited to have all of you here. Good evening.
Thank you.
And I would like to introduce you and everyone else to our moderator today. Each week, we've been bringing in someone who did not travel in Up With People. And there he is, the very handsome Will Jones, coming to us from Denver, Colorado. You may realize that right there behind him on the left is an Emmy Award. Fancy, which he is an award-winning public relations and broadcast professional. He's been involved for more than 2 decades handling public relations and marketing and on-air broadcasting. He serves as the director of external communications for Denver Public Schools. So he handles all of the external communication for what is the fastest growing urban school district in the United States in terms of enrollment. He deals with over 200 schools, 92,000 students, and he's their primary spokesperson for broadcasting and print and online. He also handles crisis communications when there's an emergency. He has also served as the external communications manager for the University of Denver and as a news anchor for WCNC. Welcome, Will.
Well, thank you, TJ. I appreciate that wonderful, wonderful introduction. One of the things that I'm regretting with my life choices is that I did not travel the world. And when we were doing our introductions, he said that he only speaks 3 languages, and I only speak 1. So I am going to do my best to speak slowly in English so that you can understand me. And I would appreciate if you respond in English, because if you speak any other language, I'm gonna have to turn to TJ for translation. But I did want to start with our senior cast member, Ali. And you mentioned that you feel equally Swedish and Ethiopian, and that's awesome. I'm wondering, has it always been like that? I mean, when you arrived in Sweden, were you immediately accepted and embraced your culture?
The culture of the Swedish culture, I mean?
Did the Swedes welcome you as a member of their family, or were you other to them?
Yeah, very good question. And I'd like to go back to my origin. I moved from Ethiopia in 1974 to Russia first. So we emigrated to a pretty, a strong culture. And at that time, being Black in white society was very unique. So I always felt like somebody from another planet. So since I was so alone in this, they tended to be more curious than aversive, if you understand. It was the same thing in Sweden. We came to Sweden in 1977. 1977, it was a very, liberal type of culture. So there was a lot of curiosity, and I never felt unwelcomed, but very much alone. Like I did not have anybody like me in the society. So I would say I was welcomed, but more from a curious point of view.
Now, once you joined up with people, was that experience similar? Did you feel like you were from another planet, or did you feel like you were immediately a part of the cast?
I think why I wanted to go to Up With People was just the fact I wanted to meet more people like me. I knew I wouldn't feel alone. And I remember I was really looking forward to meet, the Black people especially, because I was brought up in a white society completely alone for a long time. Now there are much more, people from all sorts of cultures living here. So it's different now. But when I grew up, I felt very alone as a colored, but not in any negative way, though.
So I have to ask, because I have friends here in America who are from Africa, and they shared with me their initial interactions with Black Americans, some positive, some negative. I'm curious, as a Black American, what were your experiences when you were on tour and you come to America and you get to meet Black Americans?
That was an interesting experience for me. I felt I was a bit naive during my year in Up With People, in the sense that, I just saw people as people, but then that we are colored, it would give us, some common ground and so on. And I just wanted to explore and learn from that culture, but I could see that we were very different. I was not really accepted by the Black community as, real Black or whatever. The definition was there. I felt I had another perspective, and everything boils down to how we perceive life, how we see things, what it means for us to be of a certain race. I must say, from my perspective, I have never really put any conscious evaluation around it. I see people as people, lives as lives. But I felt in the States, among Black community, there was an awareness that I was not aware of, an awareness of the Black heritage. So that was a learning experience during my year, but it was in a good way, in a very good way. to understand how we view life from our racial perspective.
Thank you, Ali. I wanted to turn to Loli from the point of view of being someone from Mexico who moves to Italy. And as a mom, I know you have children. How are your children received as Mexican Italian children in Italy?
They feel very proud, but they have problems with relationships because they have a lot of culture. They grew with my culture, and they are so different. So they have few problems on having big friends, you know, like the friends for the heart and whatever. But they are doing fine anyway because they are very smart.
That's awesome. Speaking of very smart, the Up With People team shared with me that when you received your degree from Mexico and came to Italy, it was not received. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I need to finish the studies here too, close to what I did there in Mexico. And so I gave 12 exams, so I could finish just the small degree, because they were changing programs, like saying people should finish earlier the university, so they start giving the 3 years degree. The 3 years long-term degree and the 5 years term degree. So they say, we can give you the smallest one, the 3 years degree, and I did it.
Outstanding. I'd like to ask you a little bit about your tour experience. When you were with your cast, I know you got to go to the United States. What did you think about touring in the United States? And also, you got to go to Mexico as well.
I love it.
What were those experiences like?
Yes, they were very, very good experiences. And I didn't have a lot of expectations, because I just was wanting and desired to meet people and to be around people and to live the experience of what people was offering. And when I was traveling in my city, in my country, it was very interesting to see the world with all the cultures were traveling with me, you know, like 22 cultures, different cultures, that they shared their point of view, and they were asking for things, and I was trying to give something to them about what I think and what I feel from my people, no? And I was even knowing more things about Mexico, because the north part of Mexico are very close to the United States culture. Even there is a little there is a big feeling about Mexican, Latin, and all things we do. We all the time do, but we were different. So I was learning even about my country too when I was traveling in Mexico.
When you were staying with your host families, did they embrace you? Did they embrace your culture in America?
In America, yes. In Europe, they were like very admiring about Mexican culture, about the civilization. You know, they in Europe were very, very special on knowing things about Mexico, more than me many times. But in America, if you are talking about just the United States people, or how is your question?
I was curious because in America, there are some Americans who embrace other cultures. They meet someone from Mexico, they want to hug them, they want to kiss them, they want to celebrate them. Some Americans are not. They push them away. And I apologize for the big hand. I was just wondering, with your experiences in America and in Europe, were people more likely to embrace you or push you away?
No, to embrace me, to know more about me, about how was my life in Mexico. No, it was a nice experience. The most difficult time for me is in Italy.
Tell us more.
Yes, it's in Italy because in Italy they have this very difficult relation with immigrants, and there are many immigrants from other countries, not from Mexico, and they are not just curious. They all the time they are asking me, even yes, you can meet someone and they ask you if you are living better here and if you find yourself better here, because here is beautiful. And it's true that it's beautiful because Trentino is beautiful. It's a beautiful region. In all the Italy is beautiful, but they always are pointing to the thing that I'm here because of that. So it's difficult to live in a place where they are expecting that you came here just to stay better in this place, but you are not doing that. I'm not here for that. So they make conditions to me to feel very, comfortable living here. But it's been hard, but at the same time, I love, like, how to say, los retos. I don't know, I don't remember in English, the goals, no, see, goals. The retos is like, if you can help me.
TJ, can you help me?
Yes.
I'm drowning.
My Spanish.
No, retos no.
No, retos, pero solo un poco.
Sí. I'm trying to say that I love to, how to say, I don't know how to say the word because it's not coming easily, but do you know that I'm part of the council here in San Michele, and I'm trying to
Challenges.
to bring challenges, and it's the reason I keep a very positive in life, even I have that condition that I don't really love. Okay, is what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you, Lali. Abby, one of the questions that, hearing your background story, one of the questions that popped into my head, when the war broke out and you had to apply for asylum in the UK, what did it feel like just waiting to know if you were going to be granted asylum?
Yeah, it was. So after Up With People, I came to UK initially to Manchester and then back and then come down to London. I think it was a 6-month visa and it ran out in December. And the war had started that summer. So this was in May, June, and then our year finished in July. So when the visa ran out, I went and applied for asylum. And I think that the theory was that it would be processed fairly quickly, especially because the war between Ethiopia and Eritrea really was not, it wasn't easing up. In fact, it was getting harder. And as an Eritrean national, my dad's Eritrean, my mom's Ethiopian. So as an Eritrean national, I would have to do national service. So you can imagine kind of the conflict as being half Ethiopian, half Eritrean. I joined the army or do national service with the Eritrean side, and I'm supposed to be fighting with my mom's side. There's a huge conflict there. So that was the initial thoughts of applying. And because of that background, I thought the process would be fairly quick. I would be granted asylum and therefore refugee status and recognized internationally. That wasn't the case. My case went on for a few years. At one point, they actually lost the entire file. They found it years later in some archive up in Scotland. It's quite a weird story, and I became what was known as the legacy case when my application was finally accepted. It wasn't accepted on its merits, it was accepted because it had been in the process for so long. And we're talking about 10, 11 years of waiting. You're in limbo. You cannot travel. At the time that I got a job, they weren't really looking for identifications and that kind of stuff. And that's one thing the UK doesn't have, is you don't have to have an ID. There's no national ID card. So I was able to get a job, but I couldn't move jobs because they would ask for identification and so forth. So I was allowed to work, but the system got tighter as the years went on. I missed out on a lot of family events, a lot of travel. You know, the Up With People travel bug does not leave you. And I was already used to traveling a lot, so suddenly not be able to do that is, it's really difficult. So the first year I got my British passport, I went to 8 countries. I went to 8 countries, and since then, my goal has been to visit 2 new countries per year, at least. And so far, so good.
Outstanding, Abby. When you were part of the cast of 97A, were there other people of color? How diverse internationally was your cast?
So we had one person, Emmanuel from Ghana. We had Renita, who is from India, but is living in Texas. I think she's actually a guest on here today. Then we had quite a few Japanese, an Australian. We did have a couple of African-American men. I think we were fairly colorful.
Outstanding. Yeah. Loli, back to you. Was your cast diverse culturally?
Yes.
And Ali?
Yes, the same here. Very colorful and diverse, and just a very good mix.
So Ali, one of the questions I wanted to ask was, and I asked this as a Black man in the United States of America, I sometimes cannot be myself because of prejudice, because of what people think I should be. When you were touring, were you, Ali, able to be you?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Not only on the tour, in anything in my whole life. And I was thinking about that the other day when I was invited to participate in this. What is my view really on this issue? Because I have always avoided it altogether. Always. That has been my reaction. As soon as people talk about racism, I just go and hide myself. And I just thought to myself, why have I done that? What is it to avoid? And why have I so hard time dealing with it? And then I started digging back and asking myself a couple of questions. Okay, what does racism mean to me? How has it affected me? Do I have any experience to share when it comes to racism? And what is my view of it? And I really didn't have any clear understanding of that. I was confused and I was going back and forth in my mind. So I started by thinking, okay, let me just do a general research on internet to see how is it defined? What is racism? I couldn't even put my hand on what is racism. So I did just a general check, and I could find some points to hold on to, like belief systems and doctrines and so on, that will allow certain people to justify division of people based on race. And there was inherent how shall I say, superiority over others. So if I say I will believe in this system, which is racism, then I will have the right to justify division and put myself either in a superior or inferior And then I thought that's why I've always avoided it, because it totally doesn't make any sense. And for me, I've always had a very good sense of self, in the sense that I know I'm not inferior to anybody. I know I'm not superior to anybody. So when somebody comes with a belief system trying to tell me that I am inferior, it just end game. There's nothing more to say. It just doesn't make sense. So it's always two belief systems. And since my belief system is so far away from it, I have just automatically hidden myself from. I never discuss it. I don't talk about it. If somebody has an issue, I don't question it, and so on. So I think everything boiled down for me to the fact that how do we view ourselves? If you do like an individual inquiry and really honestly ask yourself, how do I view myself? Do I really believe I am inferior or superior to somebody? No, I know I'm not. And if you know you're not, then the whole issue becomes just flat. There's no more thing to say. It doesn't make any sense. And I have always viewed myself as part of life as a whole. And even if I call myself Ethiopian, it's more of a love for the tradition and cultures, which have been my geographical area of birth and upbringing. But still, I don't identify myself strongly to any race or culture or religion or any doctrine. And if we all as individuals will have that view on ourselves as free from any identification, then I think these kind of issues will disappear by itself, because it won't make any sense. So everything boils down to the, yeah.
No, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Loli, I was wondering, when I was listening to Ali, I couldn't help but think about the experience you went through traveling with your child, flying into the United States.
Yes.
Could you share that story? Because that kind of builds the reality of some racism.
Yes. I have to start about a thing that when I married Francesco, I never thought about getting the...
Francesco is Italian?
Exactly. He's Italian. And we never think about getting the citizenship, right away, but I have the right to have it, okay? But we didn't think about that. So our daughter born, and we did give the name and everything. And then when we want to bring our kid to meet her family in Mexico, I found myself separate from my family because I was Mexican with a Mexican passport. So I was very worried about that, because I saw them pass through the line for the Europeans. And it's the reason I asked the citizenship when I just got back here. So I got my citizenship on the 2003 year. And after I got that citizenship, I start looking for the studies, because at the beginning, I couldn't start immediately. I got in Italy in the 1997. And I knew that I couldn't work and even get a work just because of my studies, because my studies doesn't count, it couldn't be used for that. So I was waiting, and until I got my citizenship, I applied for the studies. So I got finished. I got to finish my studies. Okay, so I don't know if I mix things, but I was just explaining how was the feeling about finding myself separate from my family to go to visit my people, because I used to travel from here to United States, because it's always cheaper for me to because if I go through Mexico City, it's expensive, and it's expensive to travel inside my country to go to Hermosillo, Sonora, that is the big city in my state, in Sonora. So it's the reason I have to pass through the United States, and I was living that, having that experience.
Thank you for sharing that, Loli. It's terrifying to imagine being separated from your child like that. Abby, you talked about earlier how culturally diverse your cast was. What are some things that you think the organization can continue to do to ensure that that diversity is in place or even stronger going forward?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think obviously Up With People is doing the right things to attract the students from around the world. I think it's just keep doing the same thing, continue to engage with the communities when the casts are visiting the towns and cities and the countries. I think there's a lot more social media presence, Up With People presence now with Facebook and these forums and things like that. It's just keep encouraging people to join, to speak, to you know, like I every sort of teenager, early teen person I speak to, I always encourage them to travel Up With People. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think 4 people I have spoken to have since traveled, maybe not recently, but probably 10 years ago or so. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah.
Outstanding. Ali, same question to you. What are your thoughts on the efforts Up With People is making to ensure that the casts remain diverse and representative of the entire world?
Yeah, I think what Abby is saying is very valid. Just keep doing what they're doing, but also maybe raise awareness more consciously. I think the way Up With People is set up, when people come together, it's naturally might be in place, will naturally unfold. Because you become friends, you become close, you know each other, not as races or this one from this country or this one from this religion, but you will know the person that you're meeting, and that will give you the possibility to deepen your conversation and understanding. At least it was for me. We all have biases just because of our traditions and memories and experiences, but also to take away all judgments, that it is what it is. You know, we all do the best that we can in our lives, and we do have biases based on where we have been and what we have experienced, and there's nothing wrong or right or good or bad. It is just as it is. And if you can just consciously put that forward, maybe people also will dare to speak more. I can find here in Sweden, people are terrified to be called racists and so on, because that is thrown out. This one is racist, this one is racist, this one is racist, based on different opinions. So people are really afraid of having that title thrown at them. So they rather just don't say anything. And that's, you know, not the thing that will lead us to go forward in this issue. It's better to just take away all the judgments and just see it as it is, but discuss it consciously from the point of view that there is nothing good or bad, right or wrong. It's just what it is.
Loli, what are your thoughts on the ways Up With People can continue to keep the international presence in the cast members?
I think I don't really understand what is the question, and what are you meaning about how the Up With People should do?
Yes.
For keeping us, the alumni?
No, just the organization, the leaders. From what I'm hearing, the international presence is good. How does the organization keep that and make it better going forward?
The organization. So you are not
Yes.
talking about us, about alumni, the organization, just about the organization, how it's placed
Yes.
right now.
Yeah, how do we get more students traveling from around the world, from different places? Any ideas that you have?
It is. I think in Italy, for example, they don't know much about Abwe people, and it's very hard. They know our song, Abwe people song, through philanthropic song. No, there is not. They don't know from where these songs comes and anything. So I think that we should get more involved on this uh, um, matter, no, to make people know
The alumni.
about the alumni, not the organization. Just the organization is the staff. I think the alumni should be more called to do this. Should be more, should have more space to do it. When we offer something, because I have been meeting people that was trying to bring the show here in Italy, and I found out that there were many doors to knock and many things that that like a business more than the really think about what is up with people, make it notice to others. What I'm trying to say is that if I was like offering the opportunity to, you know, give me a chance to go to the schools and talk about that with people, this is something that I think should be done in our places where we live in like alumni, to give the authorizations to show about what is up with people and why shouldn't die. I don't want to say anything else because you know it's very difficult to do this thing. But I found out myself talking about that with people many times here in Italy, and I cannot show anything. There is no background enough to make this like a very strong feeling about what Abwe people was doing all these years, more than 50 years.
Mm.
There is missing
Well,
something.
thank you all.
Probably we need
Thank you all.
to introduce, you know, I'm just like having a flash. That probably we can introduce this kind of what we are doing right now with other alumni, you know, like each country can work together with someone that have a little bit time, a little bit of the time to share and then start doing something to work on the land, where the place where we live. Thank you.
No, thank you all for being so open and vulnerable and sharing your stories, your ideas, your suggestions. As TJ can attest, the people who make the decisions for the organization are watching. And I'm sure that they're taking notes on these great suggestions you're giving. Right, TJ?
Yes. And I really, you can't necessarily see this, but we have all of these questions that have been coming in this whole time from the audience of people that are watching right now. And one of the things that I think is so special about this series is that a lot of people didn't ask questions, and they didn't know to ask questions, or they were afraid, or they were too young. And now we have an opportunity for all of these people. There are so many questions lined up. And so when we come back, we're going to take a 5-minute break so that everybody can get a coffee if you're in California, or grab another cocktail if you're in Italy. And we'll take a 5-minute break. And when we come back, it's an opportunity for us to have the audience members ask you some questions. And I'm so glad that you're going to be here to give your opinions and just share more about your life and your stories. Thank you, everybody. We're going to take a 5-minute break so we can all turn off our cameras and microphones, and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. I see that a lot of people have spent the 5-minute break adding more questions So there's so many questions for everyone here on our panel. I wanted to welcome everyone back, and I have a question for each one of you. Because we're at the halfway point, I know we have some of us who may have joined us partway through. So I wanted the opportunity to reintroduce everyone so you know who we're dealing with here. First off, Will Jones, who's our moderator. You may have seen him last week. He'll also be here next week when we do our session on allyship. And Will is coming here from Denver. Abby, I was wondering if you could tell us, how many languages do you speak and what are they?
I speak 3. Eritrean, it's actually called Tigrinya, which is spoken in Eritrea and northern part of Ethiopia as well. And I also speak Amharic, which is the main language in Ethiopia, and my very questionable English.
No, not at all, not at all. And you're coming to us right now from where in the UK?
London.
You're here from London, great. Loli, so I know you're joining us from Northern Italy right now. Could you tell us how many languages you speak and what they are?
3. I speak Spanish, from Mexico, Italian, and English. But English I don't use a lot. I speak English because I speak Spanish with my daughters, and with my husband too, because I wanted him to speak Spanish because when we were visiting our family in Mexico, I didn't want to make traductions. Exactly. So.
Well, we're honored that you've dusted off your English for us today. Thank you, Loli.
Thank you to you.
And Ali, our Swethiopian.
Swethiopian, yes.
What
3 seems to be, huh?
Please go ahead. What languages do you speak?
3 seems to be a magic number, so it's the same here. It's English, Swedish, and Amharic. The same as Abby, Amharic, so we can speak some secrets if we need.
Well, I want to make sure that I give you that opportunity because I realized that right before we started the session, you started to speak a little bit in Amharic. So just in case there's anyone in the audience you might have a special message for, please, by all means. Not everyone has had the opportunity to hear Amharic. So if you have anything to say to each other, now would be a great time.
Go for it.
Minin Balacho.
Minin Balacho, Nkwan Matacho, Nabalacho?
Nkwan Badana Matacho?
Oh, Nkwan Badana Matacho. Muntasibalacho, Turuna way Manarago Nabalacho.
Ayukun Tiagoch.
Oh, Tayukun Bamarinas Alphabeto.
She's suggesting that you should put your questions in Amharic.
I'll get right on that.
We also have a completely different alphabet.
Yeah, but
yeah.
They can find the keyboards. Salam, and I still be.
I love this because it's only enough with people that we can have the opportunity to have this conversation in 7 different languages at the same time. Loli, did you have anything that you wanted to say to everyone out there who's watching who speaks Spanish or Italian?
Yo quiero decir bienvenidos a los que hablan español. E benvenuti a quelli che parlano italiano. Io non lo parlo molto bene, però dai, mi arrangio.
Great, mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto.
Hey, and Will, I was just double checking. Has that changed? How many languages do you speak as of right now?
I want to say 3, but that would not be true. So I will tell the truth and say 1. I do know how to ask for beer and ask where the bathrooms are in Spanish. So
that's good.
2 important things. Yeah.
Very nice.
You can speak professional English and street English, so that's 2.
That's true. I do speak slang. I speak jive. So, but no, I love the fact that Up With People has such an international presence. Although it makes me feel small and inadequate in my language abilities, being a part of this lets me see that I'm part of something huge, something enormous. And that's why we're getting all these questions from all over the world. One question I wanted to ask, because I don't know much about Europe. because I've never been there, but on the news in the United States of America, they talk about the immigration, lots of immigrants coming into Europe. I'm just wondering how, or has that impacted how the cultures in Europe view the immigrant populations, having more people come in? Has that been a good thing? Has that been something that has led to some challenges? I'll start with Abby.
Yeah.
London.
UK is always, especially London, has been a melting pot. I kind of refer to London as being the capital city of the world. It's a transport between Asia and America. You tend to transit in London or another European city. London is incredibly diverse, but lately the whole immigrant situation has made sort of the right wing come up, and it's an ugly scene. Recently, just when lockdown started, I think it was back in April, I live with an Italian friend, and we were outside the supermarket waiting to go in, and a couple behind us were too close, less than the 2 meters, and challenged him, you guys need to stay back. And the racist comments that spewed out were unreal. And that was my first encounter with, just completely ignorant, closed-minded comments. If you are not Anglo-white, you shouldn't be here. He was telling both of us to go home. We're the ones who bring the disease. That was a very disheartening moment. In my 22 years in London, I've never been called out for being Black or
Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful, Abby. Loli, how are things in Italy?
With immigration, they are very like they use it even for the politics, and they don't want to get more immigrants from. For example, they are coming a lot from Africa because of the Mediterranean area, and they are really just. Like showing the politics, they show that we should take care about the immigrants because they are like taking our jobs and taking their money. It's not good.
Not good news at all. How are things in Sweden?
Yes, it's the same here. Like all European countries, you see the political divisions, tensions. And also it's not as diplomatic as it was before. People voice their concern and their views more openly, and it's a change from when I came here in the 70s, where it was more of a flower power feeling and very generous and open and allowing. It's much more strict, and they're not as scared to speak out. And we have also a right-wing party that is very strong in the government, so in the political arena. They have taken really big space. So
Wow.
definitely it's of a concern. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing those concerns. TJ, do you have any? Well, I'll let you kick it off. You're the question man.
We have a lot of questions for you. Bonnie Knight, who is traveled in 1969. She's from California in the United States. And I guess this one would be for Loli. Viva la gente, Italy. Do you think the cost of tuition is a barrier for European and international students?
Yes, it is. It is really, because here in Italy, when you go to the university, you pay like a tuition for the university, like a year, like almost 2,000 euros, no? Almost the percentage. And so paying like more than 15,000 euros to go for a year in Abu people is very, very, very expensive. Even for me with my kids, like my daughter is like saying, no, no, I can do another things, you know. She was like not applying because of that. I couldn't convince her even to make like a scholarship or something, to ask for a scholarship, or because here they don't have this this kind of connections with the students in the economics, how do you say, empresas, how do you say empresas, because I don't, businesses, economics, the business, they don't give, you know, like donations for students that want to do something very special in their lives. So it's very hard to find out that you can work for having that money. So you have to be very rich. It's true that it's expensive.
Thank you, Lily. Ali, Barbara from St. Louis wanted to say that you were not alone. She traveled in 1967 to 69, also Cast B. And she said, yes, they had many Africans of different countries and races traveling with Cast B back in 67 to 69. I'm curious, when we traveled, and when I traveled on staff, during staging and on the road, we would sometimes break into culture groups where you would put certain people and language speakers together. What did they do when you might be the only person speaking your language? What was it like for you during staging and on the road? What culture group were you put into?
I was in both the Swedish culture actually and also the Ethiopian. And I must say that I knew more of the Swedish culture than the Ethiopian. So I used to feel pressure that I couldn't bring to the table knowledge that I should, since being the only Ethiopian there. So yeah, that was a bit of a challenge, but I used to call my parents and ask questions. What shall I say? How shall I do? And they will help me. And, you know, they will send me some Ethiopian music, and I'll teach them the dance and so on. Yeah, but it was a lonely thing, but for me it has always been positive. It's given me opportunities, and also driven me, been a driving force for motivation. I can't hide. I couldn't hide in any groups or anything. So kind of exposed. Yeah.
Hey, Ali, building on that, and again, this is coming from an outsider, so don't laugh out loud unless this question is completely crazy. Does, when you were touring, did Up With People go into any African countries?
Not during our cast, but I think they have, right? Not during my year, we weren't in Africa.
Because I'm hearing that Up With People
I don't know if they ever have been.
Travels in the United States of America, travels in Europe. Are there any other countries that Up With People goes to spread the good news?
We have gone to South America. I forget which country. Definitely, I think Mexico, Japan. I think a very small cast or a part of a cast has gone to Australia. But as far as I know, I don't think any have been to Africa. I could be wrong.
Africa, no. But they have been to nearly all major areas, geographic areas. Yeah. Even Russia, I remember they got to Russia. I don't know if they have been to China yet. They have, yeah. That's my understanding. They have covered, you know, majority part of important areas. But I'm not sure about Africa.
Well, yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question, both to Ali and to Abby. I'll start with you, Abby. As someone who was born in the African continent or on the African continent, Do you think it would be wonderful if Up With People did make a trip onto the continent from time to time?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I think so, yeah. They'd certainly be welcome with open arms. Having a whole bunch of happy, shiny people, you can't go wrong, really. Yeah, certainly. I know my parents have hosted, there's a bunch of Japanese exchange students. My dad used to work a lot with Japan, and they loved it. I mean, the people didn't speak any Japanese, and this was after my Up With People year. So I had my parents on the phone quite often saying, how did you manage in countries where you didn't speak the language? So just use your arms, use your hands, your fingers. It's a language. And they managed to do it. I think they had 6 Japanese girls. Yeah, it's something that is incredible, I think.
Ali, what are your thoughts?
Between schools, there is exchange programs. When I was going to school in Kenya, I grew up in Kenya. Every year we had students coming in as an exchange program from US, mainly I think it was Massachusetts, the New England area. And we had incredible experiences with those students.
Awesome, thank you, Abby. Ali?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Abby totally. And I think also the African culture might be different. So it could be, for that reason, even more important to try to exchange in a larger scale and to go there and show what Up With People is all about. And I think there's a lot as well to gain from the culture, from the African culture, a lot. It's similar to what Up With People is doing. It's a lot of joy and togetherness and so on. So I think there's a lot to gain in such exchange. So yeah.
Absolutely.
And Ali, we have information coming in from all over the world from the people that are watching right now. So I have a couple of things for you about that question about where we've traveled. So Kathleen Michalchuk from Cast D81 said they traveled to Venezuela and the Netherlands Antilles. Barbara from St. Louis said, and she's traveled in 67 to 69. She said a special cast was sent to Africa before 1967.
Really?
Sponsored by Glenn Close's parents.
Awesome.
Yeah. Bonnie from California says, yes, Up With People traveled extensively in Africa in the 60s. There was an African cast called Harambe Africa. The Caldwells performed apparently extensively in the Congo. The Smithfields, this is Marcia Olson says the Smithfields, she's fairly certain the Smithfields went to Africa in 69 to 70. Angelica Maria Bade says the original cast toured in the Congo. Karen Nyquist says that there was a Sing Out Africa many years ago. Tina Cleary, who's the president of the UWPIAA, says, yes, Up With People was in Africa in the 60s and early 70s at a minimum. So many comments coming from all over the place. We have this wonderful brain trust that's following everything that's happening.
Wonderful. Yes. Yeah. It seems to be concentrated around 60s and 70s. I wonder if there's been,
Yeah, I don't know if we've been back most recently.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
My cast only visited Pennsylvania and Belgium for an entire year.
That is, I'm not surprised. I've been a fan of Up With People for a long time. I was sharing with the group that I hate that the first time I saw them on tour, I didn't tap someone on the shoulder and say, how can I do that? And that
was in Asheville, North Carolina, right, Will?
In Asheville, North Carolina, yes.
Just in case someone's watching that was there performing for you, we don't know.
But yeah, so I'm not surprised that you're doing all this good work all over the world. One question I had, and again, this is because I'm from the United States and I don't travel a lot, but I saw all of the protests all over the world after the death of George Floyd here in the United States. And I was wondering, were any of you touched? Were any things going on in Italy, Loli, regarding George Floyd? Were there any protests there?
Not that much. Not something that was very, it is difficult to make manifestations here. I even don't do many things because I'm trying to figure out how to do things that really get to the people, but very close to me, not in the media. Something I want to make things with people that is around me. If I have to participate in a discussion, I prefer to do it just with few persons, because in the media they translate things very badly. They don't understand, they don't get the point, and it's very confusing here. And it's because of the immigration issue that is getting like very horrified, like something very that people is not getting the real messages. So it's the reason I didn't do anything, even through Instagram or Facebook or whatever. I was just watching, but not because I inquire. I don't care. And is as I told you before, I'm just trying to do things here about the immigration issue and racism, that is close to me, that I can touch, and is the reason like I'm participating in the council, even that is very challenging here, but I believe that we can make little steps so we can leave something here with people that meet us, the people that got to meet us, and then they can get more seriously on things, because they are living something that they can understand, not something that I just make rumor. You know what I mean?
I do. I hear exactly what you're saying, Loli. Ali, how are things in Sweden? I know, and I'm going to ask you, Abby, I saw a lot on the news here, huge protests, but Sweden?
Yes, definitely a very big news. It got a lot of space and has gone into, as an example, in different conversations and discussions in different forums. So definitely a big happening that was received with horrific,
Yeah.
response. So, Abby,
yeah, Abby,
definitely.
how were you impacted in London, Abby? Or were you impacted in London?
Yes, there was a lot of protests here as well, in sort of solidarity, I suppose, with African Americans and non-whites in America. But certainly the issue, we do have some police racism here as well, unfortunately, probably not as widespread as America, but it does happen here. So there is a lot of personal feelings here for people who did go out to the protests. I think perhaps it was limited because of COVID. But I do remember seeing on TV, and I was walking down one street, came around a corner, and it was one of the biggest marches or protests. So yeah, it was a big story here, still is.
Thank you, Abby.
Yeah.
TJ, any other?
Yes, we probably could.
Questions.
We could probably talk for another several hours. Everyone has so many questions for each of you. I did have something to add from one of our alumni, Barbara DeSuarte from St. Louis. She said one of the men from Africa, who I believe was Ethiopian, in her cast, wore a turban and had a beard, and it was known that this was part of his religion. And sadly, one night, 2 or 3 men in the cast shaved half of his beard off during the night. It was said that he was asleep when they began this process. I was truly horrified that this would happen within our cast of Up With People, and I'm unaware that there were any ramifications that occurred as a result. Did any of you face any unexpected challenges, nothing I'm maybe like that, but any unexpected challenges due to your religion and being in places where people may not have met somebody that had a different religion than they did?
Not so much.
If we yeah. No, go ahead.
When we were in Germany, the former East part, we had a couple of run-ins with neo-Nazis, right wing. To the point, I think in one of the theaters we performed at, they actually graffitied the side of the building with multiculturalism Nein Danke. That was quite special. And I remember another one when we were with a host family on the North Sea on the beach. Suddenly the host family rushing me and my other host that I was hosted with into the car and driven off, and I didn't click straight away, but they were edging towards us to spew whatever hatred they had. So that, yeah, I had two encounters when we were traveling, but that was it.
And Ali?
Yeah, it's unbelievable for me to hear these things. I mean, I must have been very lucky. No, I haven't really, not at all. With that said, I do believe that people have their views, but it has never been projected towards me, and I feel really lucky in that regard. I can't even imagine how that must feel, being pretty alone in your background and then being attacked in that way or threatened must be horrific, terrible. But during my year, I didn't encounter any of that, thank God.
Can I, we're at the point where unfortunately, we're almost out of time. And I just like last week, I wish we could just keep going for hours and hours, although we all have lives and we all have to move on eventually from this panel. Dale Shaver, who's in cast 87A, had a question, which was, what was one question you wish that your castmates had asked you that they didn't? It's a tough one. Is there anything that was never brought up that you wish had been?
I must say, our cast was just unbelievably open and very relaxed, and I never felt I couldn't say what I wanted to say, and people were very free in expressing their views, even if it was uncomfortable and something maybe you wouldn't want to say. We were so close that people expressed, and there was hardly no hard feelings because we understood each other so well. It might sound like a cliche, but I felt we were like a tight family, and whatever you wanted to know, you asked, and some questions were very personal and very deep, but they were asked. So I think whoever wanted to know, they knew. There was a very strong openness in that group. Beautiful cast, the best one. I'm so happy I was a part of it. So no, I can't think of any.
Thank you, Ali. And any questions that you wish had been asked, Abby?
I'm with Ali, I think. I think joining up with people is, you join because you're open-minded and are willing to ask the question, the difficult question, what you might think would be inappropriate questions. So I don't think there was anything they didn't ask me. And well, if any of you are there, Class A, ask away. But no, I think it was very open. I have to agree with Ali on that.
And anything to add, Loli?
Well, for me, it's a little bit difficult to explain one thing that I was like having through our tour in Mexico. Because I was very impressed of the thing that in Mexico we have many situations very difficult to handle because for security and whatever, even now, more now than when I was traveling with other people. But when we were finished the tour, there was a moment where I recognized the difficulties my classmates were having because of the food, because they always were getting frijoles. They were tired with frijoles and everything. That was very like repeating and repeating about food or whatever, or the hard situations. And probably I will, because I love all my cats be, and we have a beautiful experience and we were very open. But if I have to say something about what they could be asking me to me is, what do you say, no? If they, I will love to be asked about something that I was feeling, is that how I was feeling when they were very uncomfortable with my country. You know, like this I many times I can share right now that I couldn't understand why this difference from America, from the United States people that were coming from America. They shouldn't expect to be traveling with the comfy of the world that was in United States. What I mean is that it was different, but you never ask yourself about what was feeling myself many times, that they were like refusing things from Mexico. You know, that this was very nice because we grew up. All of them, if they are hearing, I know that they learned many things, but they never asked me how I was feeling about this. But this wasn't like something that I hate them or whatever. No, I was like, my reason, I remember that when we got inside our country, when we passed through Mexico, and the difference, you can see it almost immediately, no? All the uncomfy things that they have to handle. And I remember asking a patient, you know, we have fun with that, because I was saying that we are here now with people to meet other cultures and to see everything about the other cultures. So you should just feel the things and whatever, but don't complain. I did remember doing that and asking for being patient, and they were like having fun all the time. That we have a hard time, they were saying, "Be patient, baby," because I was throwing these messages to them, but never asked about thinking about what my feeling was. Okay, but now that I'm oldest, I feel I'm many times stuck with them and whatever. But I feel like more like it's necessary to make this stand up to say this, because I see that the world is not moving on about racism, about anything, about the differences, really. You know what I mean? That we want to be together, all like different people, different color, different languages, but at the same time we want to be comfy. Do you know what I mean? We want just don't be bothered, you know, like and this is not good, because I was traveling in 25 years ago, no more than 20, and things are not changing in the world, okay? Like being aware about the other people, what can be their feelings, because you know, like when they are asking me here that you live better here in Italy. Yes, I live better in Italy. That's okay.
You know, Loli, everything you said reminds me of just how I'm feeling, both that last week and this week. I'm listening and I'm learning, not just about Up With People, but just about all the great people there are around the world. And I'm grateful for everything that Up With People has done to spread good messages across the globe. I'm anxious for COVID-19 to go away so that Up With People can get back to work, because if any people on the planet can make things better, it's you all. and the people that are going to come behind you. TJ, I'm so thankful to be a part of this. I got a bunch of new brothers last week. You know, I got a sister in Sweden now, sister in Italy now, a sister in now. This is just awesome. Thank you so much for sharing and making me smarter. You know, TJ, I feel a lot smarter right now. And a lot more optimistic.
Thank you so much for being here. And Will be here with us next week as well. Next week, we're going to be talking about allyship. So how do you talk to your friends and your family and your castmates about race and about life in 2020 and about culture? How do you have the difficult conversations? So next week, we're bringing in alumni who all have experience with that and who are going to give us some advice about how to have these difficult conversations. So Abby, Loli, Ali, thank you so very much for being here. We all appreciate it. There are about 35 or 40 questions that we didn't get to, and we will be posting those on the alumni page. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And
thank
now,
you. It's been a pleasure.
Grazie mille.
Great, thank you.
Right.
And
Bye.
for those
Thank
of
you.
us that are watching, we have more. So next week, November 7th, we're going to talk about allyship. Coming up in December, we have a 3-week session that will be about, at the end of November through December, about identity. So 1 week, we're going to be talking about gender and gender identity. 1 week, we'll talk about Up With People alumni who grew up multiracial. We're going to talk about also intercultural adoption, which is something that our alumni have a lot of experience with. So for everyone else who joined us on the panel, you can feel free to turn off your cameras, but you can stay with us. In the future, for all of the alumni that are watching, if you have any ideas about anything, about future programs that we might do here with the Critical Conversation series, please let us know. We have any number of new programs coming up, talking about the Native experience on the road, possibly, women of color, alumni in law enforcement. How do you talk to people from different age groups? Multiracial marriage and parenting, ableism, who stayed with it and never left the stage and are still involved in entertainment, cast couples that are still together, mental health and trauma and recovery. There's so many potential ideas, and we'd love to hear from you if you have any suggestions. And we'd also love to have you join us. Abby, Loli, and Ali gave us so much of their stories, of their time during Up With People and their lives. And we want to continue to do that, to give our alumni space to talk freely and openly. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that I live in Southern Manhattan, New York, which is the land of the Munsee Lenape tribe. The Munsee, or Minnesota, were a sub-tribe of the Lenape, originally one of the 3 great divisions of that nation. And I just want to acknowledge that we need to respect and honor the history and the people who lived where I live right now. I want to say thank you to the members of the International Alumni Association Board of Governors who joined us today. So T. McCreary, who's the president, Birger from the Czech Republic, who's our Europe and Africa rep, Debbie Lagomarciano, who's our rep for 65 to 1970, Craig Mills, who represents everybody from 81 to 90, Heather Riley, who represents everyone from 91 to 2000, Matthew Serafin, our communications chair, and Donalda McCarthy, who is our programs chair, who is responsible for this ragtag group of alumni who are putting this program together. So I'd like to welcome everybody from the programming committee to go ahead and turn your cameras on and say hello.
Thanks for attending, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you, TJ.
And again, thank you so much to all of you for being here and for listening. That's what these programs are about. While you don't necessarily get to turn on your camera and we answer as many questions as possible, it's really about listening to your fellow alumni. And just on a personal note, 2020 is a challenge for everybody. And I know that during the next week, stress levels might be particularly high in a number of places around the world. So be good to yourselves. And this is a really good week to reach out to your friends from your cast that maybe you haven't talked to in a while. Talk about the good times, and we will all get through this. Thank you all so much, everybody, for being here. This is your programming committee. We are all volunteers. Most of us is our first time ever volunteering for the board. So Donaldo McCarthy from Florida, who's our chairperson, Barbara, who's down in Phoenix, Charmaine, who is in Ponca City, Oklahoma, and is a member of the Ponca people, Dale, who is in Sacramento, California, and Martha, who is out in Colorado from CASC 91. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Good luck with your trick-or-treating.